to say two things. So if you're an end user, this is a really common question I get. How do I know that I'm picking the right partners? Because digital transformation only fails for three reasons. Like if you want to distill down why it is that we created too much technical debt, or we didn't get the return on investment we thought we would get, or this digital transformation initiative didn't meet our expectations, it's really only one of three reasons. Number one, you have the wrong strategy. That is, I have the wrong digital strategy. The reason my goal of becoming a digital company and the strategy we're trying to execute isn't what's right for our business, right? Number two, we picked the wrong technology, right? So that technology is what drives the architecture, the digital infrastructure. We've picked the wrong technology. So that would generally be that the technology we picked is, legacy, it's pull response, it's server client based as opposed to edge driven. Okay. That is, the smart thing is publishing into an infrastructure as opposed to a smart infrastructure pulling a smart thing out in the world somewhere. That means it has to be aware of what's out there, as opposed to, as we scale up, as we add smart things, they just notify us. We create a self-aware infrastructure. So wrong technology is the second reason we would fail. We won't be able to scale in that case. And the third one is wrong partners. So I picked the wrong partners, wrong vendors for the software. I picked the wrong partners for my architecture, wrong partners for project management, wrong partners to do my integration. So the number one question I get from the end user as it relates to the partners is, how do I identify the right partners? And it's not that difficult, actually. Okay. Number one, you want to ask your partners some important questions. Like, if you're meeting with an integrator, you need to ask an integrator really three questions. Number one, what is your digital strategy? That is, what is your philosophy for building digital strategic solutions for your customers? What's your philosophy? Like, and here are some examples of philosophies. There's the philosophy of go deep, stay long, right? And this is a really common one where, say, vendors, integrators, consultancy firms, what they want to do is they want to get deep into an organization with their contract labor, and they want that labor to stay as long as they possibly can, right? It's a volume business. Bill as many hours as you possibly can. Another strategy would be, and this is the strategy we use, is our job is to educate your organization and get you started. And part of that digital transformation journey for us is to teach you how to do what we do. So there's one part of the philosophy that go deep, stay long is we're an expert. We're not going to teach you to be an expert, and we're just going to sort of stay there forever, and we're going to do projects for you, right? Over and over and over again. We're always going to be looking for the next little tiny project that we can do over and over and over again, in perpetuity, for as long as you'll have us until you run out of money. That is the prevalent philosophy. Okay. The prevalent philosophy is, I want to be the engineering firm that provides the labor to you forever. Okay. And then the second philosophy is, no, we're a consultancy firm who has engineering professionals who's going to help you transform your organization. And that includes educating your organization to support and maintain your digital infrastructure yourself. Okay. So you want to ask that question. What is your digital strategy and philosophy? And how do you build solutions? Number two, you need to ask your integrators and your vendor partners, do you enter into vendor agreements? Do you enter into strategic partnerships with other vendors that require that you meet certain sales goals? Okay, and this is probably the biggest problem in our industry, is the people that end users are hiring to solve their problems are being paid by a vendor to use their product. And they are under immense pressure to sell that product, even if that product's not right for you. Like, Rockwell Automation is famous for this. When I first started Intellic Integration in 2015, I'm going to talk about this Rockwell Says Me thing and some questions that, John Dyke is going to have to answer about the Rockwell Says Me partnership. The fact that they put a Rockwell vice president on the board of directors for Says Me, which is fucking absurd. Okay. It's literally absurd. I've seen no evidence that Rockwell has changed their business strategy. Okay. when I first started Intellic, I needed to get like a Rockwell toolkit for some reason. I don't remember what it was. It was me, and I wasn't in charge of the automation group. So I was on the enterprise side. I was running the enterprise side. I had a business partner who was running the automation side. And he had reached out to Rockwell and, hey, we need a toolkit, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing they do is they go to our website, right? And they go, what are we all about and everything? And we're meeting with a Rockwell rep here in Texas. And that Rockwell rep basically says, well, you're going to have to remove any references to ignition, inductive automation on your website. We're like, what? This is like 2015. And the other thing that they said was you're going to need to lead with Rockwell. So you don't have to use Rockwell exclusively, but you got to lead with it. So that is, Rockwell's got to be the first choice or the first option presented to the client. And now I'm not going to pick on Rockwell here about this. Rockwell isn't unique. Most of the vendors who are entering into these types of agreements where, hey, you're going to become a partner and we're going to give you discounts, and you'll get a 30% discount on any sale, and therefore that 30% you'll sell it at list, and 30% of that sale is going to go to you. And those types of arrangements are very, very common in this industry. I mean, it's really run like the mafia in many ways, and the customer doesn't know. This is my biggest complaint. The customer does not know, and I'm going to use this example here in a second. So you need to ask your vendors, do you enter into these strategic partnerships with vendors where you're agreeing to meet certain sales goals? Okay. It doesn't mean if that integrator partner or that vendor tells you, yes, they do, that doesn't mean that you can't work with them. But it does mean that you need to find an agnostic partner who's going to be in charge. And so our recommendation has been, if you're going to use a vendor partner, okay, if you're going to use a company, like inductive automation, like let's say you're a premier integrator. If you're going to use a premier integrator with inductive automation, you should be hiring an agnostic consultant who is peer reviewing the recommendations that premier integrator is making. Because if you're a premier integrator with inductive automation, the only options that you're going to be presenting to that customer are ignition options. Okay, it doesn't matter if there's a better solution out there. You're going to be recommending ignition options, and that's it. Especially if inductive automation is the one who referred that opportunity to you. Now, I'm not picking on inductive automation here. This is just how this process works. It's how it works. And you as the end user, you need from your consultants, especially in digital transformation, not in automation, but when we're looking at the automation of business processes as opposed to, which is Industry 4.0 versus the automation of industrial processes, which was Industry 3.0. Especially when you're looking at like wholesale digital infrastructure, that is a quilt. You're building a quilt on a common infrastructure. And that quilt is made up of solutions across many vendors. It's technology specific, many vendors on common technology, not one vendor on their technology. Okay. So this is one of the biggest when end users come to us and say, hey, what do we need to do in order to be successful here picking our partners? Ask them, what is their digital strategy, that philosophy? Number two, do they enter into partnerships? Okay. And if they do, you got to get an agnostic consultant who's going to be your architect and is going to manage all your vendor specific partners. Right. If you go ahead and, it's like, if you go ahead and you hire an integrator who is entered into these agreements, then you're never going to get an impartial opinion on the technology. You're always going to get the sales opinion on the technology. Your architect needs to be agnostic. Okay, your architect has got to be the person who's going to say, this is what's good about this technology, here's what's bad about it. This is what's good about this product, here's what's bad about this product. Here's the corner you're painting yourself into by making that selection.